This episode is about people's reasons for giving up gaming. Someone on Reddit asked, former gamers of Reddit, what was the reason you stopped playing video games altogether, or a lot less frequently? And here are the answers. I stopped when I realized the ratio feeling of joy and accomplishment/time investment of video game was far inferior to the one of my other hobbies. Mostly a lack of mental energy. I find it on my day off from work, and chores and errands and etc. I don't want to do stuff that engages that much of my brain. I might just have to get into dumber games. I tend to enjoy the resource management / puzzle/open world type games that make you juggle a lot of info for crafting and which way to proceed. I started drawing and couldn't spend 12 hours a day staring at my laptop anymore. It was too tiring. Work mainly, and I've also gotten old in that I find it hard to get into modern games. They either require too much let-in time or I don't have the time to dedicate to getting good at. I'd love to have a LAN Age of Empires battle again. Those were the days. For me, there were two things. Number one, the communities I was a part of grew increasingly toxic, but gaming alone isn't as much fun. Number two, I found other hobbies that took more time. I still game, but I'm pickier about what I'll put my money into. And I find I'd rather revisit old games than take a chance on some of the crap coming out. I discovered a love for hiking, and it's considerably better for my mental and physical health, and more of my free hours on weekends goes to that now, but I still typically find a few hours during the week to chill with the 4 people that I'm still pals with online to play games. I recently quit CSGO, over 3,000 hours, for the same reason I've quit other lifestyle games such as Overwatch, Rocket League, Rainbow Six Siege. They consume way too much of my free time. I would come in from work and can spend hours on end playing them without really anything to show for it. If I'd spent that much time doing something more productive, like playing guitar, then I'd at least be pretty good at guitar by the end of it. But being good at games is pretty unimpressive to most people and isn't really transferable out of the game. I still intend to play games, recently started Resident Evil 4, but with single-player games there's no pressure to be locked into an ongoing match, and I have more control over how much time I spend in it. Also, and in my opinion more importantly, I find these lifestyle kind of games have a negative effect on my mental state. Whilst I've never resorted to the casual racism that's rampant in these environments, I have found myself at least partially falling victim to the quick-to-anger and blame everyone that isn't me mentality. For example, in Overwatch, someone on the team always gets scapegoated for the entire team's failure, usually the DPS. I've found that even out with games, I had become more self-centered and had a shorter temper. So for those reasons I quit. I had quit before and came back, but after I came back I fell right back into the old mindset, so I think it's best that I just avoid them altogether. The last time I played a video game was December. The reason was I realized I hated half the games I had, but more so I did a massive tidy out and realized I could do better things with my time. That eventuated into just sleeping way more often. They ate up way too much of my time. I still love gaming, but I realized that sitting in front of a PC all day every day was making me fat, unhealthy, and miss out on so many of the things I should have been doing, both with responsibilities and also with life in general. I still jump in now and then for an hour or two occasionally, but the free time equals game time way of thinking had to come to an end, and my life is better because of it. Lost interest like many because of real-life demands and wanting to do more with my time. Also got kind of creeped out by the whole gamer lifestyle that has continued to worsen. But the biggest thing that made me put down the controller was I felt like my entire life was anger. Listen to the news on the way to work, rage. Do my job, rage. Check social media, rage. News on the way home, somehow worse than the morning, rage. Play competitive video games into the night, rage. Everything was this constant anger cycle, and I had to make some pretty big changes all over my life to be happier. Finally got an 8 to 5 job. Gotta wake up at 5:30 a.m., so I go to bed at hopefully by 9. After getting home, cooking and cleaning up the kitchen, I've got maybe an hour or two of free time before bed. I'd rather read, relax, or chill than dive into a game. I'm looking to shut my brain off essentially after work. I try to squeeze in gaming on the weekends, but it always seems to magically be 4 p.m. Sunday before I get around to finding the chance to play a game. Get in a few hours at most on the weekends. First off, it was that I started actually making games for a living, which seriously eats into any time that you have. And sometimes the last thing you want to do after a day of fixing broken code is to sit down play video games. Then I got married. And then we had kids. Now my son plays my PS4 more than I do. I learned everything you do is a sacrifice to something else. For example, if I played video games for 10 hours on a Sunday, that's 10 hours I could have used to accomplish or learn something. I like video games and still play them, but I don't want my greatest accomplishment in life 100% in a game. I love playing guitar, learning languages, and reading far more. Competitive online matches only make me stressed and angry. Even a win is more relief than joy. I had to quit any sort of competitive matches entirely. It's never worth it for me. I used to spend hours a day playing throughout middle and high school, college, and right after graduating. I was heavily involved in a Forgotten Realms-based MUD, totally text-based. I'm talking the kind you had to connect to via Telnet, along with all the standard consoles starting with NES all the way up to this box and PlayStation and their variations. Then I got a job, but still had time to play. Then I got a girlfriend, and played a little less. Then I got a more serious job, and only played during my free time. Then we got married, and I played on the weekends. Then we got a dog and a house, and moved jobs and she went back to school, etc. etc. Basically life changed my priorities. I still game every day, but it's for about 30 minutes in the morning before work. I wake up at 5, just so I can get a little me time in before the day kicks me in the nuts. A couple times a week I might get an hour or so to play more. I stopped playing video games around 2012-21 because everything just felt the same to me. Everything seemed like some version of Call of Duty, Gears of War, or Batman Arkham Asylum. Rocket League did bring me back though. Realizing that sinking my money and time in digital goods was not a very good idea. Moved over to sinking my money on guitars and instruments. Might move to other markets if I get bored. When you get older, there's a growing list of poop that you have to do. And not just things that are day-to-day adulting. I hate that word, tasks, but things that you need to do if you want to advance or improve in life. Sure, I'm still friends with a few people who spend every waking minute they're not at work buried in video games. But I can't be one of them anymore. I'm still guilty of losing myself occasionally when I find a game I really like for a few weeks or month. Witcher 3, I'm looking your direction. But inevitably, I put it down and get back to business. Stopped playing League. Realized I wasn't having fun anymore at all, even when I won. Led to all kinds of pointless arguments with friends, and just realized my personality was gradually getting more toxic. Not to mention the hours wasted that I could have spent actually doing something. A few things. Number 1. Competitive games just generally make me angrier. This is a vicious cycle because I don't have all the time in the world anymore dedicated to getting good at video games. Unfortunately, I'm still a fairly competitive person, so it's frustrating to see widening gap. Also, I'm jaded by all the toxicity online. Number 2. AAA single-player games are so samey these days. Some are genuinely good, and I'll find and play them, but a good chunk are just money-grabbing corporate products, not real pieces of art. Number 3. Conversely, quality indie titles are fun, but often short. They're also really good at their niches, not all of which I enjoy, so I never quite know if I'll like it just because the niche crowd rated it highly. I've been burnt buying a highly rated game only to realize that, though it does what it does well, I don't particularly enjoy what it does. Number 4. A lot of games just stopped feeling fun even when they're genuine. It's difficult for them to figure out fair difficulty in place of artificial difficulty. I don't really enjoy trial and error, I especially despise luck. But some games that are too easy require so little thought. So they often feel like time killers, just something to distract myself with. The last time I felt like I truly had fun was when I started Breath of the Wild, and it left so much for me to explore and try out. Sadly, the game's mechanics didn't expand much after the start, and it was just more of the same thing. I started to rush to finish it. It saddens me to be harder to please. Number 5. Likewise, I don't feel productive, and I have a stronger urge to be productive these days. At the least, if I feel lazy, I can sit back and watch educational YouTube videos, and I genuinely enjoy doing that. I constantly ask stuff like, how is this contributing to me becoming a better person? To that effect, I'll still buy the occasional game on sale, and perhaps even exclusively do that for a few days with my free time, after addressing all other responsibilities. I especially will still play games with friends and go to LAN parties, because then it's more about socializing than gaming. I otherwise have to recognize that what I previously had was basically a low-key addiction that I needed to fix in order to be a functional adult. Thanks for listening. Subscribe to become an ice cream sandwich. And also tell me what you think about playing video games. Do you still play video games? Or do you rather do something else? If yes, what are you doing?